Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hey everybody, welcome to the latest Tales from the Fandom episode. We're wrapping up the month of May with Melanie, also known as Magical Girl Melanie, and it was a delight to have her on the podcast. Just as a quick note before we get into it, is that June is Women in Tabletop Gaming Month, and as I sit right here getting through a lot of the episodes, we're about at 40 episodes. So if you're subscribed to the podcast, you will be getting between 1 or 2 episodes downloaded a day throughout June. Some of them are about 20 to 25 minutes. Others range almost to 45 minutes to an hour, just depending on the conversation that we had. And I just want you to be aware that that's something that's coming up. So all of June, every day, is at least one episode focusing on Women in Tabletop Gaming Month. We also do have a few other episodes that might slip in there, so definitely be on the lookout for that because June 6th is our 2-year anniversary. But I hope you enjoy this episode, and if you're interested, take a look at the schedule for Women in Tabletop Gaming Month at womenintabletopgaming.com and check out all the partners among podcasts and bloggers and content creators and companies that are also getting involved in the project. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy this episode, and I will talk to you later. Thanks. And welcome to another episode of Tales from the Fandom. I am back today, and my guest is somebody that I just happened to come across thanks to Facebook's wonderful stalking algorithm, where it shows me all the different people that I should be liking on as far as like their cosplay pages and stuff. And I think you were actually here for Holiday Matsuri at the end of 2017 in Orlando. My guest today goes by Magical Girl Melanie. Welcome to the podcast, Melanie.
Thanks for having me.
I am, it's so interesting to find people that just, they're recommended on Facebook. And then I'm like, well, let me check out their pages and see what they got. And I like to find people that I'm like, oh, well, I really love like what they're doing cosplay wise or characters. And I was like, oh, your characters are really cool. I want to send you a message, and here you are.
That cracks me up because I've never had somebody say they found me from my Facebook page by accident. So I got your email when I was at Holiday Matsuri, so I just assumed that I had met you down there. Oh man.
I don't even know. It's like, because I was browsing, I might have even been browsing like the Holiday Matsuri like website or Facebook page, and then when you click on something on Facebook, it remembers it for like the next year.
That's so true.
It starts showing you people. I'm like, okay, hey, I like your stuff. So here you are, and thank you for being a guest on this podcast.
Hooray!
Hooray! Now, you have a lot of diverse fandoms, and we actually have, we've got 3 different things that we talked about that we're going to hit on, and then, of course, we'll be talking about your cosplay at the end of the episode. But the first topic that I wanted to talk to you about is a Netflix Marvel series that you and I both love, and I actually, at this point, consider the best of the Marvel series, and that is Jessica Jones.
Oh, she's the best. I love her so much.
One of the questions I gotta ask is, were you a fan of Jessica Jones before the TV series, or was it when it came out you're like, okay, I'm gonna watch it, it's Marvel, Daredevil was good, and now here's Jessica?
I actually got into everything super duper backwards. Previous to Jessica Jones, the only Marvel thing I had ever seen is Big Hero 6. Not even kidding. So, like the Disney movie. So I was on Facebook, and there was an article that either just popped up or a friend had shared or something that was about this new TV show, Jessica Jones, and how it was featuring all these different types of women, kind of in like a way we had never seen in TV. And I was like, oh, I'm not really into like the superhero thing, but like I guess I'll check this out. So I started it all by myself in my house, like late one night. And the first episode, I like loved it so much. And I was also so like scared and disturbed. I was like, can I watch more of this? And then of course I did and watched it over and over and over again. It's my favorite.
It's definitely one of those shows where it catches you off guard, especially for people that I think that they're not aware of who Jessica Jones is or haven't seen, like, read some of the comic books before. It's definitely one of those shows where you're like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening here?
Yeah, I actually oh yeah, I didn't even really know like if she had superpowers or what. Like I saw it said Marvel on it, but I didn't
Hmm.
really know how that came into play. And then of course, as soon as I finished the show, I went and I bought all her comic books.
Yes, she's a character that I think, she's an acquired taste, number one, because some people are not going to like her. They're not going to like her attitude or how she acts, but that TV series, especially coming off of Daredevil, was just so different, but it worked just so well.
Yeah, and I actually it took me a while to be like, okay, am I gonna watch the rest of these things? And like, I immediately got like super obsessed with like Luke, and when Luke Cage came out on Netflix, I was like, okay, I had to like ration it to myself because I got too excited about it. I'm like, you're gonna watch it all and then have nothing like Jessica. I mean, Jessica came out in what 2015, and we're just now getting new episodes March 8th. So like by the time this comes out, I'll probably have already like watched Jessica season 2 like 4 times through.
Yes, I am very much looking forward to the next Jessica Jones series. I don't even know what to say. I just want more, because it was such. I mean, again, like, I like Marvel, and I love the Daredevil season 1. I was like, okay, I'm down with that. And then just transitioning from that to Jessica Jones is such a great departure, and I just really connected with the characters a lot more than I did, say, with Daredevil or even Luke Cage. But I love Luke too.
Yeah, I mean, I went to school for movies, and so like I say that like objectively, I think that Luke Cage is one of the it's like a really, really brilliant show. Personally, as like a young woman, I connect a lot more with Jessica Jones. There's like 6 different like ladies in that. I mean, like you've got like Jerry, that's just like a huge disaster of a person. She's awful, And then I love Trish so much. Like, I'm so lucky that like I think in my life, and I'm like I have so many Trishes in my life. Like I'm so lucky. Like she's such an awesome, like amazing, like best friend. And then like Jessica's whole story, really, like if you take out the superhero elements of the story, it's the story of like a lot of like women have gone through. So Jessica doesn't think of herself as being, really like strong or helpful to other people. Like she thinks of herself as being so selfish and like a piece of garbage. But the fact that she kind of continues and like pushes on through all of those feelings actually says to me like how strong she really is. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what made it connect more with people, especially like women viewers and women who were like not, maybe they weren't so much on board with Daredevil, but then here comes Jessica Jones, and it's just something that they like almost. I hate to say like every woman, but it like there's a lot of people that can connect to, and like you said, there's so many different female cast members. There's someone you can connect to. There's the person that you can see yourself as, the ones that are your friends, or even people that you don't really like, and it's like, oh well, that's this person, that's that person, I'm this person.
Yeah, and with Jessica, I mean, thank God, like I'm fortunate I haven't gone through like half the amount of like trauma that girl has. But I look at that in my own life, and I think, if these kinds of terrible things like were to happen to me, like, anyone can get past it. Like it's not always going to be easy, and it's not going to be like a simple road, and you're not going to be happy about it all the time. But like, I mean, that girl kicks butt. Like, I just think it's such a strong moment. Like the very first episode of the show, and like she realizes her like biggest worst nightmare has come true, and like this guy has come back, and he's gonna come for her, and like she's gonna fly to Hong Kong, and I'm like, I don't blame you, girl. Like, she would have been totally blameless if that's the action that she went with, but she still chose to stay and, like, help other people. You know, she didn't have to do that. She was totally in her right to leave.
Oh, absolutely. It's just that show. I just have so much high praise for that show, and I know that on the flip side that a lot of people crap on that show, and I just don't get it. Like, I don't.
What? Like, what do they even crap on it about? Like, where are they coming from? Like, it's so good.
See, yeah, I don't know. And then it's those same people that are like, oh, and you know, I'm about to bring up the subject that, you know, you and I were joking about earlier, but those people that probably crap on Jessica Jones are the same people that think that Iron Fist is good.
Like, I would say on, like, the simplest scale, like, without even, like, me pooping all over Iron Fist, like, if you want to rate them from, like, the most, like, for lack of a better term, like, superhero-y, like, very, like, traditional superhero, like, movie kind of themes, you've got, like, Luke Cage being, like, the least amount of, like, superhero-y show, and then Jess, then Daredevil, then Iron Fist. That, like, Iron Fist just, oh my god. I'm sorry everyone who likes Iron Fist, but even when I was at Dragon Con and I was at, like, the Defenders meetup, even the guys that were cosplaying Iron Fist were making fun of him. Like,
if you have hate mail that you'd like to send to the podcast about Iron Fist, you can send it to me at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com. You may not get a response, though, or you'll just get me laughing at you.
I thought you were going to give them my Instagram, and I was going to be like, oh, God.
Oh, I would never do that.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be at the end of the show. I love complaining about Iron Fist, so... Oh, man.
Yes. So as far as Jessica Jones goes, the first season obviously was an amazing season. Did you have any, like, standout moments that you remember from the show that you're like, oh, you know, this moment, like, is what, like, just got me, like, the thing that just, I don't know, like, either dragged you in or just held your attention, or you know, something that you're like telling people, oh, you need to watch Jessica Jones because of, and then you tell them what you saw.
Oh, for me, I mean, it's like, I would say towards, like, the middle end. I mean, I was already super into it, but the show is so unapologetic from how they talk about things, like, especially from, like, a standpoint of, like, women characters, or, like, women with stories of, like, abuse or trauma or things like that. Like, I mean, even a lot of shows about women where they have some kind of like, sexual assault or trauma, like, it's always like, oh, this event, like, made them everything that they were, and, like, this is why they're this way now, and it's like, which is, like, kind of a crappy storyline in the first place. So not only does Jessica Jones kind of, like, establish that, like, well, this is, like, a big part of her life and a big problem, like, it's not, her whole, like, personality and everything isn't bent on this one thing that happened to her. You know, like, you get to see that whole background with, you know, how she lost her family and how she got, you know, adopted into Trish's family, and how, like, Trish really became her sister. Like, those were all big things that made her. But the show doesn't shy away from those topics that people are afraid to talk about or bring up. So, like, how many times are you watching a show and, like, a character will say something like, you made me do things I didn't want to do, or, like, that was for you, that wasn't for me. Like, they're, like, allusions to, like, things that have happened. Whereas, like, in Jessica, like, right off the bat in the first episode, Trish is like, oh, this is just your PTSD. Like, they use those kinds of words to, like, describe the exact things that are happening to her. But so the biggest standout moment to me is probably when that episode's a lot of people's favorite episodes, where it's what would Jessica do when they're playing house when Kilgrave, like, resets her childhood home or whatever, and she, like, willingly goes there, and she just starts screaming at him, and she's yelling at him and saying, like, you raped me, and he's like, oh, no, I didn't. Like, she's like, yes, you did, and she's, like, telling him about it. I'm like, oh my god, how many probably women out there have, like, wished they could have that kind of, like, conversation, like, with their abuser. So I would say it's like, that was, like, a big like jaw drop moment for me that I kind of sat on my couch and was like, I don't know if I've ever really seen a scene played out like that on TV before. And then the episode where you kind of start finding out about Kilgrave's past, and even me like sitting there by myself, and I was like, oh, that's like, maybe it's not his fault that he's like this. Like, that's so sad. And then I caught myself and I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what manipulative, abusive people want you to think. Like, all of those things parallel to real life. So even though it was in the context of like, you know, his superpowers or whatever, his parents, like, you start like feeling, you know, like sad for like the abuser. Like, maybe it's not their fault. Like, maybe they don't mean to be like this. And like, that's exactly what people want you to think. So I just thought those were such incredible examples of really clever writing and storytelling and like character development that we don't see a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those shows where they're very unapologetic on what they bring to the table as far as the topics that they're talking about, the storylines that they're doing, even, you know, graphic wise. Like, there's some of the scenes in that show were more shocking to me than, say, like in Daredevil or Luke Cage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even when I go back and rewatch it, I had a friend ask me if we could watch it when she was at my house. And I was sitting there and I was like, oh my God. Like, even I like sometimes like forget about some of the scenes. Like the one that comes to mind is like right towards the end. I know the episode's called 1,000 Cuts, because Wendy said, she's like, oh, it's like death by 1,000 cuts, and he's like, okay, do it. And I was like, oh my God, it's awful.
Yeah,
so
that one is like, oh my goodness. Like, that's the one where I know, you know, there's a bunch of scenes in Jessica Jones, but that one, I like that's a cringy scene right there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the episodes where like the stakes just like jump even higher than they already were, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how this is going to be like resolved.
Speaking of Jessica Jones, as far as the character goes, I do have to ask, I imagine you watched The Defenders.
Oh yeah.
What did you think of her amongst the rest of the team?
I can tell you what, I never in my wildest dreams thought that Jessica Jones would be the comedic relief to anything, but that was just so refreshing to me. I thought it was hilarious, because it's true, like when you put her next to characters like Daredevil and Iron Fist, I know I'm not comparing, you know, those two to each other exactly, but they are. I mean, Danny Rand doesn't wear a costume, but you've got like Iron Fist or Daredevil, who like wears his costume, which like she's super not into, you know, and then just kind of everything about Danny's whole personality, like him and all his like mystical stuff, you know, like she's just not into it, because she and Luke are kind of on this other side of the spectrum, where like when Luke has to like sit down with Danny and be like, hey man, like I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I've kind of like been out there trying to like, you know, save kids from the street and stuff like that, and like I'm trying to make a real difference here, get home, and you're coming in talking all this crazy, like, do you realize like you sound like a nut? I like really love that when he like kind of has to like sit Danny down and be like, hey, like your white boy privilege is kind of showing, like you're just running around with like no shoes and like talking crazy, like some of us have real problems here. Because I mean, I don't blame him, like even though Luke has like unbreakable skin, everything Danny talks about still sounds totally nuts and not real at all. So when he's like spent his whole like, he's like gone to jail twice and like all this stuff, like poor Luke, like he just can't catch a break, you know. So I love Jessica, but it does kind of crack me up that I wouldn't necessarily say Jessica was an alcoholic in the first season. I would say she had an extremely serious drinking problem, but you know, it just kind of, because her timeline, like she doesn't have time, like she doesn't always have it with her, but then somehow you like jump to the Defenders, and it's like after she has like faced down her biggest worst fear, and like she has somehow definitely rolled into alcoholic territory. I'm like, girl, how did you get worse? She got worse. poor baby. But yeah, when that scene where she steals the beer from the homeless man, I was like, girl, you got a whole nother level now.
Yeah, I loved her in the Defenders, especially like, beyond her interaction with like, let's say Luke Cage, but I really loved her interaction with Matt Murdock, Daredevil.
Yeah.
Like those two really just they really worked off of each other, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, which is so great because she definitely. I mean, I'm always really curious, like how they're going to tie the comics like into her story, because she like kind of has a crush on him in the comic too, which I thought was kind of funny. Not to say that like she necessarily had a crush on him like in Defenders, but kind of like watching how they interact with each other, I guess. But I also like that anytime there was like a big fight, and when Jessica would like do something, she would like throw a dumpster or something, like everyone, including like the villains, would all just kind of stop and look and be like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, because that scene in the Chinese restaurant, that is just so good. They're like, "Whatever it is you do," they talk about her,
Right?
And Danny's trying to like give them like a big speech. He's like, "Unbreakable skin, like immortal iron fist, like blind ninja," and he's like, "Whatever it is you do." And she's like classy, or like whatever it is she says. She's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm excited for season 2. I'm wondering like where they're going to go with her as a character. It's like, I try not to spoil myself anymore, especially on like the shows I really enjoy, and that's one where I'm like, okay, just give it to me. Tell me when it comes out, and I'll be there watching it.
Yeah, I mean they already have the setup for it in season 1. Without like spoiling you or anything, but definitely like when I watched the trailer, I was like, okay, cool, this is basically what I thought they would be doing. And I really like, I've read like interviews with Kristen Ritter and like the directors and stuff, and they're like, yeah, they're really diving into like the psychological implications of like Jessica Rabbit. I was like, more? How do you even do that more? And I was like, oh my god, poor girl can't catch a break. But I guess that's why she's an alcoholic now.
I guess so. I mean, if you're stealing stuff from
she doesn't even drink beer. Like, she doesn't even drink beer. That's what it says to me. That's so bad. I was like, girlfriend, like, that's alcoholism.
That's a problem, and you need help.
Yes, she needs some serious help. But, that's what Trish is for. So I'm looking forward to more Trish, too. In season 2.
Yes. I am looking for. I'm interested to see if they eventually roll her into
the Hellcat.
Her like into Hellcat.
Because I don't really know how that would work like timeline wise, and like what little I've read of Hellcat. I'm like, I don't. It's hard for me to like see Trish in that, especially because like she's definitely more the like Patsy personality, I guess, in the comic book. But I mean, I'm here for it. I want to see it happen, because then of course I can like make all my friends cosplay Hellcat with me too, which would be great.
Absolutely, that will be so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Another fandom unrelated to Jessica Jones,
so unrelated.
However, you know what? I will say there is a relation, and it's got strong female characters.
It's true.
and that is an animated TV show that I've not yet watched, but I've heard so many good things about, and that is Steven Universe.
Woo! Okay, well, by the time we're done talking, you're gonna like immediately be like, I'm ready to turn on Steven Universe. I've infected all my friends with Steven Universe. It's very magical.
All right, pitch me Steven Universe. Why should I watch it?
All right, Steven Universe. First off, it's short format programming, so each episode's only 10 minutes long, so you can like put this show on where you're like making your lunch before you go to work or whatever. That's how I started watching it. And it kind of similarly to Jessica, it's representing themes and kinds of people that are previously either extremely underrepresented in cartoons or basically not represented at all. So when I first started watching Steven Universe, it wasn't too long after the show had come out, because I was talking about cartoons with a friend at work, and he had mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh, I've seen like a couple like screen caps of that like on Tumblr, like I want to check it out, but I just hadn't gotten around to it. So I started watching it, and it was cute. I was like, okay, cool, but which is fine. Not every cartoon has to have like serious deep meaning. I was just watching it because it was sweet. So Steven is part gem, part human. And so the crystal gems are from outer space. So Steven's mom was a gem and his dad was a human. So each of the gems, whatever like they're named for, they have that like physically as like part of their body. So Steven's mom was rose quartz, and so he actually has her gem. So Rose isn't around anymore because he kind of like inherited like her gem. So that's his like gem half. So since they're all like they're sort of are like they're magical girls in a sense. Also, all the gems represent female, except for Steven, of course. So they're kind of like magical girls, and they go out and they fight crime that's like left over from this like big gem war that happened on Earth. And so Steven wants to learn to be just like them. So essentially the story opens up with like Steven, like a young boy, being raised kind of by like 3 moms. And you're like, okay, that's cute. Like, sure. So I was like, all right, I guess the show just kind of represents like untraditional families, I guess. And so it was just really sweet. So pretty early on into the show, like maybe like the 10th episode or something like that, all of a sudden they kind of like introduce like music as part of the show, and like the whole show shifts. So like from episode 1 to like what's happening now, it's like almost 2 completely different shows. It just started out kind of like goofy and silly, and it's since turned into this like extremely like deep emotional show. So like there's this joke about like within 10 minutes the show will start out and you'll be like, oh, this is a cute one about Steven doing laundry, and then at the end you're like, I'm crying, the socks were a metaphor. You're like, how is this happening? But anyway, there's a lot of LGBTQ representations on the show, really, really different from how you've seen like represented a little bit in, I would say, even like live action TV, where you're like, oh, maybe that's kind of gay. You're like, oh no, it's gay. And if you weren't sure, they made sure you knew the next 3 episodes when they kept bringing it up. Like, they are not. So I don't want to ruin it for you, because it's such a great reveal, and anybody who's seen Steven will know the exact moment I'm talking about. But like, I will never forget, like, the show started like picking up, and I was like, oh, it's episodic. Like, you actually kind of have to watch it in order, because they had like some big plot points. And so like this show that started with like Steven like crying about ice cream sandwiches, he's like now like on this spaceship, and he's like gonna be kidnapped into outer space. And I was like, oh my god, this is intense. And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and these 2 characters, and I was like, did those 2 girls just like kiss on the mouth? And I was like, oh my god, they were like kissing on the mouth. And I was like, this is unbelievable. I was like so excited just to see something so different, because like, you want to talk about hate mail, like I've definitely like gotten hate mail over it, but like people kind of look at like Legend of Korra as being one of like the first like bigger shows to have like gay representation on it, and I just don't, even at the time, like it wasn't enough to me. It just didn't count. Like, we never really saw the romance between Korra and Asami. It was all like apparently like took place over like letters that the audience never got to hear the content of. The 2 characters weren't in the same place at the same time. Then they like held hands and like looked off into the sunset, and I was like, what? I was like, that's not enough. So I love having shows like Steven Universe that are kind of representing all different kinds of people and different kinds of families, and that like kids are like growing up watching this, and it's changing their perception on people. Because if there's one message that Steven Universe is all about, it's about being inclusive and being yourself, which I just think is so awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's needed. And again, like just tying it back to Jessica Jones, Steven Universe is unapologetic about what they're putting out there.
It's so true.
Because I know that just from talking to people about the show, and the way that people talk about it is so passionate about what the show means for them, or for like their friends or the people that they know that watch it. And, you know, again, it's a show where you can identify at least with one of the characters on there, because there's again great giant cast of characters in that show, there's got to be someone that you identify with or see one of your friends as that person.
Yeah, that's so true. There's been a lot of moments where I'm just like, wow, I can't believe like they found such like a sweet, like subtle way to like approach some of these topics that are appropriate for kids and adults. Like no hate on like people that love My Little Pony. Like I said, you're allowed to love things that are like cute and sweet and fun, like what you like. But I've never really like been able to get into it because I was like, well, this is a nice show, but like I didn't feel like there was really anything in it for like me as an adult. That's why like I kind of classify Steven more as like a family show because it's something that adults and kids could watch together versus that like I think My Little Pony's like audience is more geared towards like kids, but like, you know, because it's really like sweet and nice. But Steven has a lot of like big emotional points. Again, not try. Please don't send me hate mail about My Little Pony. Please continue to enjoy liking it. It's very cute. But we stirring the pot on everything. But yeah, like I do panels at conventions about Steven Universe theories, and I like ran a Tumblr blog on it and everything. And it always like amazes me and makes me so happy the diverse audience that will show up to that panel, like kids with their parents, like adults by themselves, like adults with other adults, like, and everybody will just kind of like bounce ideas off of each other of like what they think is happening in the show, and it's that just always like really warmed my heart that it's something that like everybody can enjoy together.
Absolutely. That's always the best thing is when, and I speak as a parent of 3, that it's always the best thing where if I can watch the show and my kids can watch the show and there's not anything that is going to come up where I'm like, oh, well, that's not appropriate for them to be watching right now.
Yeah, I think we really are in this kind of golden age of television again. And, you know, everybody loves their 90s cartoons, and everybody's like gone back and like rewatched the Rugrats and been like, oh my God, there were all these like jokes that I didn't get as a kid. But I think we've kind of shifted in a different direction where like for adults to enjoy something, like it doesn't have to be sexual. You don't have to make like sexual adult jokes that kids don't understand just so parents don't get bored. Like if you write quality characters and quality storylines, then that's enough in my opinion. So I think it's kind of nice that we're getting more of that instead of less, that people are finally starting to realize like just because something is animated doesn't mean that we have to like dumb it down for kids.
That is probably one of the truest statements right there ever. Don't dumb things down. Just do what you need to do to get the message out, however you want to get your story out. And, you know, kids will figure it out and adults will enjoy it.
There was this really, really sweet meme that was going around, like, I guess for lack of a better term, meme, of this little boy that had like a little plastic like gem stuck to his forehead. And this girl wrote this story. She said that she was a camp counselor at a church camp, and they were doing arts and crafts, and this little boy came over and he had the gem on his head, and he's like, oh, I bet you don't know like who I'm supposed to be. And she's like, are you Pearl from Steven Universe? And he's like, yeah, like she's my favorite character, and like all this stuff. And so they start talking about Steven Universe, and he says to this girl, he goes, yeah, if I was a girl, I'd marry Pearl. Like this was a kid at a church camp that like recognized through watching Steven Universe that like Pearl definitely liked other girls. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was such like a cool statement that, you know, I don't know, like the show, like, but he didn't say it like it was a big deal. It was just a part of his world from like watching the show. And I think that's kind of the direction that we should be moving in. It's just that inclusivity for everyone.
Oh, that is definitely true. And I saw, and I'm not going to name names because it'll be months by the time this episode comes out. But, you know, lately there's been the discussion of, you know, inclusivity as far as media and projects. And you got like the backlash people, you know, oh, why is like, say, Ghostbusters all female? Or they were talking about just like last week, James Bond, how they're thinking about making the next James Bond either like a female or a person of color, and you get the people that are like, why does it have to be that? Why can't they have their own movie? Why does it have to be in my James Bond? Or you have like even
like
in
there's not
even
enough James Bond movies.
Exactly. It's like in Star Wars, it's like, why is the main character, a woman? Why? Or what's up with like Finn? And it's reached this level of just insanity of, I don't understand why you're getting worked up over what you're getting worked up over.
Yeah, because all of those things that you enjoyed, like, they're still there. Like, nobody went out and was like, hey, all the Ghostbusters are girls now, so we're going to need to round up every DVD copy and digital version of Ghostbusters ever, and we're going to torch them. This is the only Ghostbusters now. You have to like it. You have to like this one. Like, it's not true. It's just more stuff. You know what I mean? And I think it's awesome that, like, voting with your wallet is a big real thing, especially in media, and we're going to keep getting more of these things because people keep showing up to them,
Absolutely. It's like, I saw for the first time, I don't know how long, I think the number was like 65 years, but last year the top 3 movies that made money were all female-led characters. Like, you had Last Jedi with Rey, Beauty and the Beast, and Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Were the top 3 movies last year.
Yep, I totally buy it.
Yeah, definitely, like, more is better. And if people need to just stay in their lane, stay in your lane and stay out of the fast lane that we are moving forward in.
Yeah, like what you like. And if you don't want to go see Wonder Woman, then don't go see Wonder Woman. Like, nobody's going to cry about it.
That's right. Now, I do have to ask before we move on, who is your favorite character in Steven Universe?
My favorite character is Pearl. I kind of have this joke with my friends that you can easily pick out whoever Melanie's favorite character is going to be based on whoever is, like, the biggest mess at any given point. So, hence, my Jessica love. Pearl has, like, a lot of, like, deep-rooted problems, and, like, we've gotten a lot of, like, backstory on many of the characters, and throughout all this time, like, we still really don't have that much about Pearl. I think she's one of the most mysterious characters on the show. I focus on her a lot in my my little, like, theory panels, because people get really excited to talk about it. And I think at the time of this recording, Steven Universe comes back on tomorrow, and so I'm hoping I'm gonna get some of those, like, big, like, plot heavy, like, there's, like, 3 different kinds of Steven Universe episodes that I joke around, and there's the ones that are just really sweet and fun, like, kind of like more filler episodes. There's ones that are, like, super plot heavy, and then there's episodes that are super gay. So it's one of the 3 normally. So if it's plot and it's gay, then you get bonus points. So that's a really good episode. Yeah, so I really like Pearl. Lapis was one of my other favorite characters when she was first introduced in the show, because we didn't really know a lot about her either. She was really mysterious, and I was kind of wondering if she was going to play, like, a villain role in the show. I still really like her. She's definitely, like, the one of the sassiest gems. She's, like, not really happy all the time, but I think that only makes her, like, more lovable. But yeah, Pearl's my favorite.
Okay. I will definitely have to give Steven Universe a try. Now, for people who are interested in Steven Universe, where do we find it to like, watch it?
Almost all of it is on Hulu. I would say right up until maybe about, like, the last 5 episodes plus, whatever has come out by this point. And then the Cartoon Network app, if you log in with, like, your cable provider, whatever the newest one's coming out, they put the full episodes on there. So
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I know what I'm going to be doing probably in the next couple days. Besides everything else that I normally do, I will give it a shot.
Yeah, just, they're 10 minutes each, and like I said, you just kind of have to stick with it a little bit. Like, the beginning episodes, they're cute, but they're really different, both, like, thematically and also, like, artistically. Like, the visual style changes a lot. So just so you know, there's a big gap in from the beginning to now.
I will keep that in mind. Another animated thing that you mentioned that you're getting into is a anime called Madoka Magica.
Yeah, I love Madoka so much. Considering how nerdy I am, I didn't actually really grow up with any anime at all. Like I hadn't even seen like Sailor Moon as a kid. I'd watch like some Pokemon and like Yu-Gi-Oh with my brother. But other than that, like I kind of skipped out on the whole like anime phase. So like I get to like enjoy it later in life, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely I watched anime like end of high school and all through college up until like my mid-20s, and after that was it. Like I've been out of anime since then, beyond the like, you know, Hayao Miyazaki Studio Ghibli movies.
Yeah.
Or like Attack on Titan I caught because everyone was talking about it, and like that was super, like that was cool. But like your traditional animes that are coming out now, like I'm totally in the dark besides what I see people cosplaying as. I'm like, I don't know what that's Academia. From.
Everybody's cosplays from that. That's what I've learned in the last month.
Now, what is it about this new anime that's getting you into not only the show but anime right now?
Madoka Magica actually came out in 2013, so I watched it in college. So I was at home. It was my day off, and my best friend that I went to college with, and we'd been best friends since 5th grade. So she had her wonderful like weeaboo phase as like a child that I missed. So she was familiar with anime and things like that. She went out to her friend's house because her friend wanted to show her this anime, and she goes, "Oh, it's only 12 episodes, so we're just gonna like watch it in the whole day." So she comes home and she goes, "We have to watch this right now. You have to watch it." And I was like, "Okay." So even though I didn't really watch anime, like I trusted her. She's my best friend. She says I'm gonna like it, then I'm gonna watch it. So Madoka Magica, the whole actual title is Puella Magi Madoka Magica. So basically magical girls. And it's the best way to describe it is that it's a deconstruction on the magical girl genre. So it's kind of like flipping the Sailor Moon idea on its head of like, oh, if you gave girls that were like 13, 14 magic powers, their biggest problem would not be things like, oh, I failed my math test because I was up late fighting monsters. Like, they'd probably have worse problems than that. So Madoka Magica is like everything that I'm about, like aesthetic wise. It's super adorable. The art is incredible. It's got great music. And so it starts off basically setting up the viewers to think that they're just watching like a Sailor Moon ripoff. And then everything kind of flips on its head in the 3rd episode when you find out that being a magical girl isn't so great. It's like you're choosing a extremely harsh life without giving away any specific spoilers. So I was watching the show and I said to my best friend, I was like, you know, if you had blue hair, you would look just like one of these girls. And we were taking an anthropology class at the time, and we were like, well, I've heard of like cosplaying and stuff like that. Like, why don't we like get some costumes of these girls and go to a convention, you know, just to see what it's like. And so I was really nervous because this was like literally the only anime I had ever seen, and I was going to an anime convention, and I was like, everybody's gonna make fun of me. And I had the best time ever. And then also I watched Attack on Titan at that convention. So then I had seen 2 animes.
hey, that's more than you had seen. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna mispronounce it because I was saying Madoka.
I don't know, like it's both ways. Like I'm kind of confused because they say Madoka on the show, but like lots of people say Madoka. So I'm like, I guess both is fine. No idea.
I would go with whatever they say on the show because that's probably the correct pronunciation of things. Do you have a favorite character in that show? Is there a person that's a total mess that you relate to?
Well, see, here's the beauty of Madoka Magica is that they're all a total mess.
Wonderful.
But my favorite character is Kyoko because I think that she's one of the strongest characters. So I'm like, I don't want to spoil the show. So I'm trying to think. But basically, like when the girls become magical girls, there's like one one like true reason or like an ultimate like thing that should happen with these girls. And like it has a lot to do with like how they treat their emotions and like things like that. And none of that ever happens to Kyoko, and she maybe has like one of the most like depressing, awful backstories. I just think that makes her like a really like strong, interesting character.
Where would I go to find this to watch it? Is it because
it's all on Netflix, actually.
Yay, Netflix comes through.
So the key with this one, when you type it in, you're going to be like, okay, there's like 5 different things just came up. The one is, you've got the one that's just called Puella Magi, Madoka Magica. That's the 12 episodes of the show. Or they actually broke it into 2 movies that are really beautiful, and they even like remastered some of the animation, and they let like the voice actors re-record some of their lines, which I thought was really cool. So there's 3 movies. So you've got Madoka Magica Part 1 Beginnings, which is the first half of the show. The second half of the show is called, I think it's called like Eternal or whatever. But anyway, there's a third thing you're going to see on there that's called Rebellion. That is a completely separate movie. So if you watch the TV show, you can watch Rebellion as well, or you can watch like all 3 movies. But Rebellion is not included in the TV show. It's like a sequel story. It's like a very trippy story that I would say, like, I've watched the show in both English and Japanese, and I like it both ways. But if you're going to watch Rebellion after you watch the show, I would watch it in English the first time, because there's a lot of like visual clues to the show that like you're gonna miss when you watch it in Japanese, because it's a bit of a complicated story. So you can either watch Rebellion as like the true ending of the series, or you can just watch the 12 episodes, and if you're satisfied with that ending, like I feel like they both count as endings to the show.
2 endings.
Yeah, it's anyone that's watched Madoka will like understand what I'm saying. It's definitely like the kind of show that they could have made it gone forever if they wanted, but I'm glad that they didn't.
Oh gosh, shows that go on too long, and why
it's
they
been my
should
problem with in anime. It's just so much. There's just so much.
Absolutely. I feel that, like, there's even TV shows now, like normal regular TV shows. I'm like, wait, you've been on for 11 years and you're still going? What?
Yeah, like, there's no way you know how that ends. It can't be good.
Yeah. It's not going to end well, I imagine. Now, you had said before we started recording that Madoka, oh gosh. Okay. Madoka Magica, that show, that anime, is something that actually helped you get into what you are doing now, because you are a cosplayer now.
Yeah, so it kind of turned out that for a few years I had been cosplaying, and I didn't know until I went to that anime convention. So my favorite movie is Enchanted with Amy Adams. That's the Disney like parody movie. She like falls down the well. God, I love that movie so much. So when that movie came out in 2007, and I remember sitting there, and when she makes a dress out of the curtains and then like sings in Central Park in it, and I was like, I have to have that dress. Like, I have to have it. I just want to look just like her. I have to have that dress. I love this movie so much. And somebody actually made the dress for me, and then I wore it for Halloween like every single year, and people would be like, oh, I love your Enchanted cosplay, and I was like, oh, thank you, it's just my Halloween costume. And people were like, what is that girl talking about? Because I didn't know. I thought cosplaying involved like role playing, or like, you know, I don't know. I didn't think it was just like wearing a really nice costume you cared about. So it turns out I had like this Disney, like a couple Disney cosplays, and I didn't even know. I just thought they were really good Halloween costumes that I worked on really hard. So, so I go to the convention in my Madoka costume, and I was kind of really nervous because my experience of like dressing up in costumes for Halloween was that people get like really weird and entitled when they see people in costumes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, is this going to be really stressful? Like if people are asking for my picture, like I don't know. And then of course, like everyone was like, oh, you look so nice. Like, can I take your picture? Oh, it's okay if you're going somewhere, if you're like late for something. And I was like, really? I was like, oh my God, these are the nicest people I've ever met in my whole life. Because I went to the convention thinking everyone was either going to be like totally nuts or like making fun of me because I didn't know any other animes besides the one I was dressed as. So none of those things happened and everyone was amazing. And that was Otakon 2013, I think. That was my first convention. So I went big. I was like, go big or go home. I committed. And it was so great, and I was just totally hooked ever since.
As a cosplayer, and you've been doing it for, like, by the time this comes out, probably about 5 years, give or take. As far as the characters that you choose to cosplay, do you choose them based on your love of the character, the outfit, or a mixture of both?
I would say, yeah, in a perfect world, like, a mixture. Definitely when I first did Madoka Magica, like, we had decided that, you know, my best friend was definitely going to be Sayaka, and I, like, didn't really, like, know enough about it, and I was like, well, I'll be Madoka, because her outfit's super cute and pink, and I think it would be really fun to wear that, and I wanted to have pink hair. But nowadays, definitely, primarily characters that I really, really identify with, like, love the show, things they want to talk about, like, when they fit into all three of those categories, it's awesome. So, like, I do Jessica cosplay. I have a lot of her, even like the same clothes that like she's worn on the show, not like the actual piece, but like I've tracked down like where they're from. And I actually got to meet Kristen Ritter in New York City at like her book signing. And I didn't even mention anything to her, and like we were talking and she just goes, oh my God, you have the same shirt. It was like poking out under my jacket, and I was like my heart will never be fuller than this moment right here. Because honestly, before she said that, I wasn't even really sure if it was the same shirt. So I was like, oh my God, cosplay confirmed. But she was so nice. I was worried she was gonna like think it was weird that I came like wearing a leather jacket because I like Jessica, and she was like the nicest person in the whole world. So that's, yeah, I like to pick characters that, you know, in real life, like something about their personality traits are things that I would want in my own life. Like, I feel so strong when I'm dressed like Jessica. It's so fun. Like, I have black hair in real life now because I was like, I just need it. Just need to feel like that all the time. But like with Pearl, it's kind of funny because she's my favorite character, and also, like, she comes with creative challenges. I like that, too, that's a big part of Steven Universe cosplays. There's a lot of, like, body paint and spirit gum and, like, weird contacts and stuff like that. So, like, for Pearl, I do a prosthetic nose, but I'm allergic to latex, so I can't even, like, buy a prosthetic nose or, like, cast one because everything's made out of latex. So I kind of had to like find a new way to do something that there wasn't a whole lot of like helpful information on. But what I don't love about Pearl is that she wears these like bike shorts, because she's like a beanpole on the show because she's like a 2D animated cartoon. I hate wearing the bike shorts. So I'm like, I love Pearl, I love doing the makeup, I love the hair, and it's just me constantly trying to find ways I can be her without wearing her like regular outfit because I just despise the shorts. It's like cosplay problems. But yeah, sometimes I pick characters that are, you know, things that I like, but if they have like creative challenges or I like the outfit, like we were talking a little bit before the recording about like Star Butterfly, which I think is actually getting bigger. I noticed a lot more people wearing it at Holiday Matsuri than I had ever noticed before, and that's a show I watched because I thought it's sweet and fun and it's cute, but it's actually starting to get a little more episodic too, and I'm like, oh, I'm okay with this. But I basically picked Star Butterfly because I liked how wacky her outfit was, and I really wanted the challenge of making her magic wand, which came out really good. So that was fun, but definitely sometimes like I do group outfits with my friends. So we do here in Atlanta, we have the Southern Senshi Squad, and it's all of my like friends outside of cosplay, and we all do the Sailor Scouts. And I'm always like very honest and upfront with people that I'm like, I still barely know anything about Sailor Moon. I just really love dressing up with my girl squad and like representing. So like I'm Sailor Uranus for that group. And I do love wearing the Sailor Fukus, but it's funny because Sailor Uranus and I definitely have like some personality traits that are similar, but Sailor Uranus represents as both man and woman, and so like whenever I'm like trying to do like the boy makeup, I'm not like the cosplayer that like possesses like tons of that ability. Like there are some like super feminine girls that like make the most incredible boy cosplays, and like I am not one of them. I'm always like, I don't know what clothes to wear for this. But it's just fun to do with my friends. I mean, ultimately like cosplay is about having fun, so
Yeah, absolutely. One of the ones that caught my attention when I was scrolling through, you know, your Facebook page was Honey Lemon, because I love that character from Big Hero 6. And I was like,
I love Honey Lemon so
just
much.
spot on. Like that's such a spot on costume right there.
Those are actually my real glasses too. When
I don't mean to laugh, but you know.
No, I laughed too because I ordered them online and I was like, "Oh, cute! Like I want pink flowery glasses," and they were listed under like big frames, and I was like, "Yeah, big. That's like the glasses I wear now." And then they showed up in the mail, and I was like, "Oh my god, they're like Grandma or like Barb Stranger Things big." And I was like so close to sending them back, and then I was like looking at them in the mirror, and I was like, "Wait, they look like Honey Lemon." And I was like, I'm keeping them. So, but that's one of my big goals for this year, that it will be like a huge endeavor for me, but I really want to do her battle armor as a cosplay. That's like one of my like penultimate goals.
That is a great goal to have, because as a character, I think, you know, in the movie with Big Hero 6, you got a lot of focus on a lot of the characters, but I feel like Honey Lemon, you just didn't get enough of. Like I wanted more from her.
Yeah, if you actually watch it, I think she has one of the most interesting like dynamics of the group, because considering she's such an outgoing, like bubbly personality, she's also a really excellent listener, and she's a really great friend. So if you ever watch the movie and just watch Honey Lemon the whole time, she instigates a lot of like the really important moments without like drawing attention to herself like as an actual team leader. It's like she'll listen to her friends. She's the one that like makes the phone call to Hero to make sure he's okay. She's the one who puts Baymax's chip back in him. She finds the room with the like portals in it or whatever. Like she's a really big instigator in those big moments without feeling like she's like taking charge, I guess.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that character so much.
Yeah.
Now, for those people who have been listening and we're here nearing the end, what are some of the best places that people can find you online, like I did, to follow the work that you do?
Well, apparently my Facebook is even easier to find than I knew, so that's like very good to hear. I'm Magical Girl Melanie on pretty much everything as of right now. So that's my Instagram name. It's just all one word, Magical Girl Melanie spelled Melanie. I have a Facebook page by the same name, and I actually, hopefully I'll have had a couple things up by then. I'm starting a Twitch channel that is going to be me playing some games with my brother, who like actually seriously does Twitch. His Twitch is Kettle Chips, Kettel Chips, and he plays games. And so I have like Spyro the Dragon and like Crash Bandicoot. Like those are the only games that I was ever not terrible at, were for PlayStation 1. But I'm also going to be showcasing some of like my cosplay work on there and stuff like that, to have like some helpful accountability. I think maybe I'll procrastinate less if I know people are staring at me.
Awesome. And I'll have all the links to those on our Facebook page and show notes and website, and pretty much anything else that this episode has. You'll be able to click on that and check out Melanie's different sites and see the awesomeness that is contained within.
Whoop whoop.
And Melanie, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come talk with me today. And if I get through Steven Universe, I might have to have you come back and we'll talk about stuff.
Oh yeah, we could do a whole Steven Theories podcast. I've actually thought about that. I was like, I should have a podcast for Steven Theories.
Yes, there you go. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And everyone who is listening, go check out her pages because there is some good work on the other side.
Well, thank you. It's always a delight getting to nerd out about my favorite stuff.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.